What's going on, everyone? Miller here, finally wrapping up our year-end list with my top 10 best metal albums of 2022. 2022 brought a huge wave of just a lot of awesome music. We kind of knew that was coming from the break that a lot of people had, and really quality stuff has been coming out this year, a lot of it. And it's shown that people had time to sit down and really work these ideas out and go with them. And man, this was hard to crunch down to 10, but I did it. And we're going to start out with number 10, Rake-Off, Observing Madness. Now this little, man, it's like 25 minutes, I think, just shy of 25 minutes. Absolute barn burner from this band that was formed in 2016 in Italy. And it's under their Raked Records, which I'm assuming is like a self-titled label. These guys waste absolutely zero time with anything. Everything is trimmed. It's just solid, great, thrashy crossover from start to finish. And like I said, no filler, nothing. There's little nods to like a Florida-style death metal in there. They do an interesting job of creating some of these melodies too over this brutal stuff, and playing around with these rhythms and stuff on the guitar that make everything fill out. It's just a really solid listen from start to finish. And it isn't like an overly huge amount of time to devote to listening to it from start to finish as well. Number 9, CASTRATOR, Defiled in Oblivion. This is from Dark Descent Records. This band formed back in 2013. They had, I think, one EP and the full length this year. And man, what a first offering. There's a few first offerings from bands in my top 10 list, which is kind of crazy, but it just shows you when people have time to really hone their craft and hone in on an album, they can really do some killer stuff. This band is just riff after riff of just solid guitar work. Kimberly Orlana does a fantastic job with the guitars on this, and peppers in these leads here. I think there's just about a lead per song. They kind of stick to a formula that's been done, but the way they do it is so on point. And that won't make sense until you listen to it, but everything is very thought out, especially the drums. The drumming is what kind of grabbed my ear, if you will, because it's basically everything is purposely done on the drums to fit with something going on. There's no point where the drums seem to like fade off or anything like that and do their own thing. Everything is on point. Everything is exactly how you or me as a musician, when you think about some ways that a drummer could or could not do some fills or whatnot, when you're listening to a song, like pretty much what she does is exactly what would be the best case scenario. It fits really well, and the drums really feel like they have riffs about them, and it's pretty cool. Carolina Perez is killing it on drums in this band. And they are set to really have a bright future about them. The band just keeps going. They just finished up a tour, I know, this fall, and they're going to be doing another thing this spring. But fantastic. Can't wait to see them live. And this is very much in the vein of like Obituary, Cannibal Corpse. It's exactly that. It's meat and potatoes death metal, and they don't do anything to like bend the rules at all, but they don't need to, because everything they do is solid on this album. So if you haven't listened to CASTRATOR, pick it up. Number 8 on Some Pump Records, Telekinetic Yeti, Primordial. Now, I know when this came out, Necrotic Nick and I reviewed it, and I knew that it would be something that I listened to more, I would like it more, and man, did I ever. It's been on a pretty constant rotation this year. It's just a high on fire Sabbath love album, and it does it fantastically well. There's tons of catchy riffs, harmonies, grooves. It's heavy, it's impending, it's menacing. Ghost Train in particular is one of my favorite tracks, probably of the year. I just love that song. In particular, the ending, that little ending part they do with the riffs and everything, and just the build-up of that is fantastic. Just some absolutely crushing riff work here from this band. This two-piece has got it going. They just keep getting heavier and heavier, and I can't wait to see these guys live and see how this translates. sounds so crushing when you're sitting there on your headphones in your car or whatever. Just seeing that live is going to be fantastic. Can't wait. Telekinetic Yeti, check it out. Number 7, Sentient Horror, Rites of Gore. I was really drawn into this album when I reviewed it way back in the spring, and it hasn't left my rotation since. Again, with the wave of death metal coming out in this year, this is a Swedish kind of style death metal. If you like Entombed or Dismember, you'll love these guys. There's plenty of death metal, doom, groove, everything you would want from those styles of music kind of join in together in this one. And the music, as brutal as it is, the vocals just add this total other amped up layer of just brutality. These vocals are on point on this album. And even for that vocal styling, I don't care for. Typically, this is done really well. And man, it's been stuck in my head since April when it came out. John and Matt are killing it on the guitars. Probably one of the best duos out there, arguably, right now in metal. Just everything they do fits well together. They work really well off each other. And it adds for just a super enjoyable album to listen to. Sentient Horror, Rites of Gore. Number 7. Number 6, Bloodbath, Survival of the Sickest, out on Napalm Records. This band has been around since 2000s, and I've kind of floated in and out of listening to them here and there. Never really, dove into their stuff too much until this album. I listen to this album a lot, and by now most of you've seen the video for Zombie Inferno. It's pretty ridiculous. It's awesome. If you haven't, check out Bloodbath Zombie Inferno, the music video for it. It's pretty funny. Yeah, this album kind of has like a grave hypocrisy kind of feel to it, which is awesome because those are two bands that I love, and from start to finish, this album is solid. These guys kind of keep getting better throughout the years now that I've kind of went back a little bit and listened to a little bit of their stuff, cherry-picked here and there. And just straight balls to the wall, just absolute blast to listen to. And number 5, Totem by SoulFly. Now this comes out on Nuclear Blast. Now what do you get when you take one of the founding fathers, one of the pioneers of all this shit that we love, and you give him a bunch of new stuff to listen to and time to take it in and time to write? You get a fantastic album. That's what you get. And no one writes a riff like Max, no one writes a song like Max. It's easily identifiable 100%. And that's one of the things I love about Sepultura, SoulFly, Nailbomb, Cavalier Conspiracy, just his way of writing, his feeling that he puts into it, his worldly kind of influence there on his guitar riffs. No one writes a riff like this guy. And these songs are wonderfully put together. It shows thought, it shows growth, and it also shows that this guy is continuing to put out just some of the most brutal shit, and he's evolving with times, and he keeps delivering a solid album that his fans and new fans can love. It's taking a ton of stuff that I like, the grind, the thrash, the death metal, the new metal, the worldly kind of percussion. All of that stuff is mixed in here very well. And if you haven't given this album a chance just because of whatever idea you may have about SoulFly, to put all that aside and pick this up, because this is a death thrash fest. Number 4, Decapitated, Cancer Culture, also on Nuclear Blast. Now, the latest album from this groovy tech death band that's been around for a minute now is fantastic. The production is there. You can hear everything. You can hear everything well. There's a layer of polish on this album that you don't get with most albums. And they also do a great job of writing these really catchy, hooky kind of songs that you can hum. And you get them in your head, and you can recall them, and you can recall what song they are. They don't get lost in a wave of blast beats or anything like that. Songs are well constructed. They show a great level of maturity in the structure. Songs like Locked is just a brutal assault to the ears. Just a Cigarette shows that you can be super fast and still have a melodic element to it that works really well for the song. Overall, this is definitely one of my favorites this year, and it is one that I will have on my playlist forever. I can't see me not wanting to listen to this album again. Number 3, PHOBOPHILIC, off Prosthetic Records, Enveloping Absurdity. And these guys formed back 2016 in Fargo, North Dakota, and these guys are young, but they are super talented. And the talent that this band does have is very apparent right off the bat in this album. From their first full length, again, with the first albums, some of these bands just absolutely slaying it. PHOBOPHILIC is there. I've seen these guys twice this year. They kill it live. It has plenty of that chuggy death metal groove stuff that you love, but it puts this layer of atmosphere over it and despair that gives it a little bit of a darker feel. And when he adds his vocals over it, it's just takes it down to another like evil kind of layer. And it's really the atmosphere and the combination of these things really set it apart from other bands that kind of work in the same arena, if you will, what they're doing. They definitely have like a Demolic tomb mold kind of feel to it. And Aaron, the vocalist, the guitarist, he's really got like kind of this Chuck Schuldiner vibe to him. I don't know why. He just super talented guy, super chill, super cool. These guys have a huge future ahead of them. Get on the train now, because this is going to be one that chugs for a long time. Number 2, Cave In, Heavy Pendulum off of Relapse Records. These guys are just brutally heavy. This album is heavy, it's doomy. There's some death metal elements in here too, and this one grew on me a lot the more I listened to it. Necrotic Nick got me hooked into it, obviously, when we did the review. And this is one that I have listened to probably more than most of the albums on this list besides my number 1. The first song off the bat, New Reality, really sticks in your head immediately. It's super catchy. It's definitely kind of got a I would say maybe like a single kind of vibe to it, of course, but it's still heavy. It still maintains a groove and brutalness to it. The thing I like about this album is just a lot of layers to it. The more you listen to it, the more you can pick apart these different things that they're doing, and they do it really well. It's a really well-constructed album. Searchers of Hell is one of my favorite tracks off the album, and the build-up that they have, that big epic kind of thing in Wavering Angel, is just really cool to listen to. A solid send-off for the album, for sure. Listen to this album. It is definitely something you should be doing right now. And all those layers that they kind of got working that add to the replayability of this album really kind of broke up the brutal like death metal onslaught that was this year. And speaking of brutal death metal onslaughts, my number 1, Undeath. It's Time to Rise from the Grave. This is meat and potatoes death metal, just Florida style death metal, early Cannibal Corpse to a T, and there's nothing wrong with it because they do it fantastically well. Everything is well balanced. They got enough thrashy parts, upbeat parts. They keep to that mid-tempo kind of groove for the most part, which is where I kind of like living anyway. I don't like my stuff to be overly brutally fast like all the time, because it just kind of gets to the point where it's just the same thing. They do a great job here of just kind of mixing in things. They kind of stick to that mid-tempo, but everything they got working for them fits so well. All of these songs are killer from start to finish. The Funeral Within, Rites of the Grave, Defiled again. I mean, there's just a ton of songs that are killer on here. And to me, Undeath has just nailed the formula, and they're not doing anything to kind of like break it or make it new or anything. They're just doing it and doing it fantastically well. And what it got them was the album of the year for me. And I've, like I said, listened to this constantly since I got a hold of it in, was it April when it came out? I think them and Sentient Horror were like in the same week. That was like one of the best weeks we've had this year for metal. Those two bands are awesome. They came out with killer releases, and it really like Undeath, I think, is my number 1, kind of capped off the year and the amount of just good death metal that we got. And we got to be really thankful that we're in this time that we are right now, because I don't know that there hasn't been too many years like this where there's been so much quality stuff. And even some that I missed on my list that maybe fell a little bit. Revocation, their album this year. If I could do an honorable mention section, Revocation's new album was absolutely fantastically killer. Those guys are brutally heavy, smart in the way they write things, just a joy to listen to. One that would have probably made this list, but then I realized it was an EP, was Volcanova with Cosmic Bullshit. It's a really fun listen. It's more along the lines of like a Telekinetic Yeti or Red Fang sort of thing. Enjoyable listen, fun to listen to. And one more, Rhythm of Fear. That was one that I enjoyed too this year. It was just straight up old school, like Testament, Anthrax, thrash. Straight up 80s, early 90s thrash. Good stuff. Listen to it. So that wraps up this video, and I'm going to get back into taking inventory and redoing this website of ours to make it a little more user-friendly and work out some shipping issues we've had with some of our international folks. All that's getting situated. Also trying to work out some interviews, get those booked up and whatnot, and we're moving along, moving the Thrall's train along. And once again, thank you so much for liking, commenting, subscribing, giving Nick shit, especially that one. Thank you so much. We're going to keep this train moving. Like I said, new stuff coming for the new year soon. But until next time.